It's like, okay, I think we are live. We're already live? Okay, we are live. Thank you. We are live both on our YouTube and our LinkedIn. Okay, sorry for that. Then I need to make some people co-host as I sit. You don't have to, Gaddafi, you don't have to on your camera. Okay, you can proceed now. Dr. Ogusi, you are a co-host now.
Okay, welcome back, everyone. And thank you very much once again for taking out the time to be here. Our topic for today's webinar is research proposals and guidelines, developing research questions, research proposals, and please kindly mute your mic and off your camera. Thank you very much, Beatrice. Our topic for today's webinar is research proposals and guidelines, developing research questions, research proposal structure, and academic documents for grants and publications. Before I hand over to our speaker, I would like us to note a few things. The speaker will be speaking for 40 minutes. After that, we'll have a question and answer session for 15 minutes. So if you have any question during the course of the webinar, kindly type it in the chat box or use the raise hand feature. We will acknowledge your questions and then answer the question. This will only happen during the question and answer session. All right. So without wasting much time, ladies and gentlemen, it is now my honor to introduce our speaker for today's webinar. Our speaker is Dr. Ogunsiyi. Dr. Ogunsiyi is an REF Research Fellow at the University of Birmingham, United Kingdom, and also a lecturer at the Federal University of Technology, Akure in Nigeria. His research interest focuses on the role of functional foods and nutraceuticals in the prevention and management of degenerative diseases, with special interest in neurodegenerative diseases. Beyond his outstanding research contributions, Dr. Ogunsiyi is passionate about mentoring young scientists and helping them build successful careers in research and academia. Please join me in giving our speaker a warm virtual welcome by showing some reaction. Without taking much of our time, it is now my honor to hand over to our speaker. Dr. Ogunsiyi, over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, the moderator. It's nice to be here. Thank you, Dr. Adini, and good evening to all the AYS family and everywhere, everyone that is tuning to us this evening. So without wasting time, I will share my slides so that we can dive into what we have for today. All right. Okay. Moderator, please, can you confirm that my screen is live?
Yes, I can see your screen.
Thank you very much. So it's a privilege and honor to always have an opportunity like this to share uh, insights and experience about uh, what we have been privileged to go through in terms of research proposals and paper presentations. So, like the moderator has said, today we are looking at research guidelines, uh, research proposals, and guidelines. Moving forward, the moderator has done a lot of introductions, so I won't dwell much on these. But if you're interested in what I do, then you can scan this QR code to see more of what my work is all about. Thank you for that. So let's dive into what we have for today: research proposals and guidelines, developing research questions, research proposal structures, and academic documents for grants and publications. All right, now let me start this way. In academics, there's something we call a prerequisite. For those of us that are AYS mentees, we have a, I had a talk like this some months ago when you were still in the preparatory phase that outlined some of the things we will be discussing again today in a more elaborate way. So I will encourage you to see that first talk as a prerequisite to these, and then I will strongly encourage you to marry the two together. And if you can still get the earlier talk, it's good to marry them together because they will give you a rich accumulation of resources to guide. And but nevertheless, I believe we have a bigger audience of people who may not have participated in the earlier webinar. So I'm going to make it all inclusive again so that we can all learn and then get useful informations. So what are the objectives after today's webinar? Hopefully, at the end, we hope that you'll be able to develop strong research questions, to be able to know how to identify research gaps and know how to prepare competitive research proposals, and understand the logic and the heart of grant writing, and then how to prepare your papers, your results for manuscripts. It's a lot of information that we have to share tonight. I will try to be as concise as possible, but I may be a little bit fast because we have a lot to cover within the short time. I will try as much as possible to make it as simple and as basic as possible. So what I need from you is to pay attention so that you won't get distracted along the lines. Thank you very much. So let's start this way. Research questions. Okay. When you want to start your any work, any research you want to do, you start by asking yourself questions. Every research starts from a simple question. Why is this like this? And why is that like that? Okay. There has to be, when there's no question, there's no research. So know this, but everything starts by saying, what do I want to do? And from experience, okay, from my personal experience, I've realized that most of research questions comes from our everyday life. In Depending on me, I'm a basic medical scientist, so I relate to human health, and it helps me to appreciate. So most of my research questions comes to what happens to us every day. So of course, And I believe the story will be the same for every other discipline. If you are in social science, humanities, art, all these are connected to daily, because you are in research to help humanity anyway. And then at the end of the day, the aim and the goal of your research is to be able to deliver outputs that will help humanity. So questions of your research can come from as simple as every day. So when you want to start from research questions, don't try to complicate things by looking for a gigantic, a, a sophisticated question. No. Sometimes you just need to look at your immediate environment. You need to look at things that happens around you, and then that will spoil you. Okay, and then that would help you to improve your curiosity. Let me give one interesting one, which surrounds the story around my master's research. Now, when I was at the secondary school, okay, I will be sharing a lot of personal experiences along the top, which I believe are very valuable. So when I was back days in the secondary school or college or high school, as it may apply in your side, uh, I realized that there was this plant, that I went to a boys only school, sometimes boys can be very stubborn. Then I realized that there was this plant that, boys will say when you take the seed or when you take the leaf, it makes them, high, makes them hallucinate. So they all go for it when they want to feel high. And why they prefer it that time is that, unlike other narcotics that we have give you a smell, it doesn't smell. If they drop it inside water, it is colorless. And you don't even, I don't know if it is tasteless because I never tasted it, but I know it is colorless. So it was a very good decoy and it's very powerful. Then I started asking, and then since that time I was curious, how could this thing make people to behave like this? And someone will use it. And then another interesting thing is that if Mr. A used it back then, it will develop a distinct characteristics. It may be, dancing. Then Mr. B can take it and he will be sleeping. Two contradicting behaviors. One may be very active, the other may just be feeling drowsy. And I was like, how can one plant have dual effects? And then I carried those curiosity over on the graduate days, then masters came, and then I was privileged to have a supervisor that gave the opportunity for me to say, oh, what do you have interest to do? And then I said, oh, there was this plant that I came across in secondary school, and then I told him this was my experience. I said, oh, interesting that he knew about the plant, that he even said funny thing that then anybody that takes the plant, that he had an experience where a goat hurt the plant and then nobody could catch the goat in the whole street, and the goat was sleeping up of a very high rising platform and things like that. And then we decided we should work on it. And then that was how I got the research for my master's. Just that curiosity of years back. And today, the plant is Jimson wheat. For those of you who may know it, and we did a fantastic work on it, well published. And so why I'm sharing this experience is that it's getting research question is not magic. It could be from a everyday life, something you come across in the street. And fantastic. And doing that research with that plant opened my eyes to many things. I can never forget this. When we administered that plant to rats that time, I remember when we were, when we were completing the research and we had to dissect the brain of the rat, there was this particular group which received a high dose of the plant, that one hemisphere of the brain has considerably shrink to almost 40%. And till tomorrow, back then I didn't prepare to do any histology study, and till today it still pains me, but it was that fascinating. And wow, more 40% of brain mass of one hemisphere was lost. So what am I trying to say here? Research questions can come from personal experiences, as simple as that. Something that will interest you, something that you can push through. Okay, so I haven't answered that. So again, like I said, sources of research ideas, I've talked about these literature gaps. Apart from personal experiences, which I've talked about, then you may read in literatures and you may see something that will strike your curiosity. You may, if you are a clinician, your research question can come from the bedside of one patient that has this experience. I was seeing my GP recently, and then I complained of some pains, and then they said, "Oh, we've checked you. There's nothing wrong with you." And then and I said, I noticed that when I take a particular kind of drink, when I take carbonated drink, that's when the pain comes. And I asked the doctor why, and he said they don't have an answer yet. And he said, "Oh, that's why the research continues, and then there are many things we don't have access to." And I said, that's interesting. So even science does not have all the answers yet. So it could come from bedsides, it could come from community challenges, like I told you. It, a study, your master study can give you a question for your PhD study. And then like that, it could be a policy. Maybe you are in humanities. The need for a policy may be the need for you to do a research. So these are how we get everyday life, simple things. It doesn't have to, the take home from this aspect is nothing complicated, simple, and it could be a source. Your source of question can be simple and very straightforward. So, but when you are identifying the gap, there are important things you need to do. After you have gotten your research question, then you have to ask some of these questions. What is known already, which comes up with literature review. Now, let me emphasize on this. Literature review is very important. A good literature review will show in your research, and a bad literature review will show in your. So don't skip literature review when you want to do a research, I will advise, because sometimes if you do a poor literature review, you may just end up replicating what has been done, and then you finish, and then you are trying to publish your data, and then you realize that ABC et al. Has already published their data, and your work you've labored months in the lab become almost useless. And then the reviewer will ask you that, what is the difference between what you did and what Mr. ABC et al. Published in 2007? And then you can't answer, and then they say, sorry, we can't publish you. This is data redundancy. So good literature, find out what has been done and what has not been done. I can assure you, in any field, everything has not been done. Okay, so in doing all this, you must be focused, be very focused. Don't try, you cannot solve all humanity's problem at once. It's not possible. Just take a bit and focus on it. It's better you go deeper than you spread. I don't know if you understand what I'm trying to say. Rather than spreading and then trying to cover many things, it is better you take a small spot and drive deeper. Going deeper in something will help you to be focused, and then will help you to quickly become a master of it, and then you can be a reference point. There are some areas we talk about today, and then when you mention this person's paper, then when I tell you an area, you will say, have you read this person's paper? Have you read that person's paper? That's because the person has gone deeper. Now, for example, there are some works you will tell me, oh, I want to study, let's say I want to study diabetes now. And I will ask you, have you read the paper of so person, so person, so person? And if you tell me that your literature review, you've not come across that person, I will tell you that you've not done a good job, because I know the person has gone deeper in that area, and there's no way you won't come across the person. So what I'm saying is, be focused, be original. Now, when I mean original, I'm not saying research. That is why it is called researching. Okay, you are researching. So it's not like you are doing entirely something from the blues. But that thing you want to find questions, so let it be original as much as possible. Don't just go and take something that has already been done and then you are trying, you yourself, you know that there is no gap in this. So be original and let the question be a feasible question. Like I said, I will give you quickly some instances. If you are in Ghana, for example, and then you tell me that your PhD work is to solve immigration challenges, for example, in the US or in the UK, and then I ask you that, yeah, you have a fantastic proposal, wonderful put together, but I ask you the question, how can you be in Ghana? You are not coming to take an admission hop in a university in the UK. How do you want to carry out a study from Ghana on a problem in the UK, studying in Ghana? So you may be focused, your study may be original, but it's not feasible. Again, time. What makes a project feasible again is time. Maybe at the end of the day, you want to do A, B, C, D, E, F to Z, and then you have just 18 months master's period. And then I tell you, your work is original, fantastic idea. You are going to be answering a good question, but how do you want to complete this? And then these things I'm telling you, again, when we look at grant writing, there are a reason why many grants fails. So it's not just about it's the reason. And then again, apart from that, maybe I can ask you again, you have a fantastic idea. How do you want to execute this financially? And then if you don't have a reasonable way of saying, oh, I have a scholarship, I have a grant, and I say, there's no way you can execute this because good proposal require good money. All right, so let's look at the final criteria in terms of research question. Again, it must be feasible, like I've said. It should be interesting, first of all, to you before any other person. If I tell you that, Ms. Ada, what are you working on for your master's or what are you working on for your PhD? In 5 minutes, you should be able to make me get interested. If you can't if you can't, the way you present it, if yourself is like, you see what I'm doing, by that time, I already know that there's going to be problem because you are not even excited about what you're doing. How do you want to make other people see excitement in what you're, so you have to be interested in it. And that's why I say your research question can come from everyday life. And that's why we also appeal to supervisors that, especially at graduate level, let the student be involved in their research question. Again, it should be novel. We've talked about this. You should consider ethical consideration. If you need to get ethical clearance, please get it. Thank God in Africa now, many universities have embraced ethical considerations. Be ethical in your data, be ethical in how you handle animals, do good science as much as possible. Now, don't expect that you're going to get positive results every day. Sometimes you get negative results. Sometimes your hypothesis is not proven. So get your mind and please don't ever try to falsify data. It's unethical. Please. These days, we even have journals that are publishing negative results. I don't know if you have come across it. There are now journals solely dedicated or some journals that accept that, okay, I expect that drug A will cure disease D, but I did my study and drug A did not cure disease D. Naturally, nobody wants to publish those kind of data, but there are now journals that say, give us data that will publish it. And then let your research be relevant to your area, to humanity. This criteria also meets even when you are writing for proposals, not just because when you are applying for grant, a funder, anybody that wants to fund your grant wants to make sure it is feasible, it is interesting, it is novel, it is ethical. They can see that you have given good considerations to ethical considerations. If you don't need 100 rats, don't say I'm going to use 100 rats. Okay, so and then it must be relevant. So let's look at some examples. I've given enough examples about research questions, so don't let me dwell too much on this because of time. Okay. So now let's go to when I want to write a proposal, be it for grant, be it for my PhD proposal, I want to apply to a university for PhD funding, for master's funding. And of course, you know that in all of this, proposal writing is key. And scoring that, most of the time, scoring the proposal carries the biggest mark in your application. So you want to do a good job. So most of the time, this structure is not what all proposals fit in, but it's like a general, most of the time, this is like a skeleton for most proposals you come across. May it be in any field. There may be a little bit deviation depending on the specifications on who is asking you to write the proposals. But generally, you will come across all these points: title, you should have a title, introduction, statement of problems, and all. So let's quickly look at some of these one after the other. So let's start with title. Sometimes we think title is just title and it doesn't carry. I tell you that most of the time, when your proposal for funding is being evaluated, each of these points will be scored marks. I was privileged to still evaluate a proposal for a grant recently, and each of these were given score. You should score them. So don't say title is just title. The title may be 5 marks, and 5 marks lost here, 5 marks lost there. Don't forget it's a competition, and what we make candidate A to be given the grant or the PhD or the master's admission over candidate B, we may be just 1 mark. So you want to get as many marks as possible. And let me give you this tip. There are some places that there are easy marks to get. It may not be easy to get all the marks in methodology because, come on, you are not yet a master in that field. For you to convince the professional reading your mark that your methodology, you want to get 100% of the marks, it may not be easy because you may not see a loophole, but because the person is experienced in that area, he may definitely say, oh, okay, this methodology, this person did not do this, do this. But for example, title, if you are careful enough, you will get 100% of the mark allocated to title. So that is a smart thing I want you to have at the back of your mind. So let's look at title. Now, what is the quality of a good title? Should be specific enough. You don't need to be beat around the bush. Should be informative enough, should be concise, and then should be something that can easily be searchable. Okay, so one thing you should know is that make it very concise. One of my mentors will always tell me that once your title is going beyond 3 lines, that it becomes redundant and uninteresting for readers to read. Of course, sometimes some titles may go beyond 3 lines, but of course, try to make it as short so that, because there is this human effect that when most of it, I don't know, but most of the time it happens to me, when you see too long text, you usually get discouraged, but when it's just 1 or 2 lines, you are motivated. Okay, let me quickly read it. Okay, and let me tell you one secret. Most evaluators of grants, by the time they read your title, they read your summary, I can tell you they have 75% made up their mind about your proposal, even before going to the rest of it. So you want to put your strong foot forward. You want to give a good impression of yourself right from your title, because by the time I read the title of the proposal and I read your summary, I have already formed my opinion about your proposal. Don't forget, you are not there to defend yourself. It's just the paper that will speak for you. Let's look at this example I've given. They look like the same thing. The first one I wrote in red is, I said, is neuroprotective. Let me see if I can get, oh, it has run away now. Okay. The first one is neuroprotective effect of Thalinium triangle extract into Madagascar of Parkinson's disease. Now, it is concise, it is specific, but the problem with the first one is that if you look at it carefully, I said neuroprotective effect of Thalidum triangulare extract in Drosophila. Now, for somebody in neuroscience, if I'm evaluating this title, I would say, okay, it's good you have written it concise, But what is the problem I see here now? This is where we need to learn, practical learning now. For example, first thing I say, Carinium triangulare is a botanical name. Since the person that will evaluate your proposal, nothing says in proposal evaluation, nothing says the person will be in your core area. It may, for example, if I submit a proposal for in chemistry now, my proposal can be given to any basic medical scientist. It can be given to an anatomist to evaluate. Yes, it is done. So you want to make it as professional and at the same time as simple as possible, because that's why sometimes in some proposal writing, in some application, they will tell you to write an executive summary or a layman summary that anybody can understand. So the issue here is that there should be, instead, if you want to use the botanical name, it's advisable to put the common name in front and then put the botanical name in bracket. That is problem one. And then you see that in blue, we have fixed it. We said, if neuroprotective effect of water leaf. Then going back to this, the first one, then you see that it said extract. Now, for a neuroscientist, this may not be a problem, but if, for example, the reviewer is a pharmacologist, then he will say, oh, or a medicinal chemist, he will say, what type of extract is this person talking about? Because he said extract, not extracts. Then the person will expect you to say maybe it is aqueous extract from water or alcoholic extract, or, and then you see that's why in the second option I said aqueous extract. So you see different people, different perspective. Now, having fixed that, let's now look at why do I now have the last one in green? What is wrong with the one in blue? Now, if you let's read the one in blue. It says neuroprotective effects of water leaf aqueous extract in Drosophila model of Parkinson's disease. It looks perfect enough. But the challenge with this, why it is not yet 100% acceptable, is this looks like a title for a article you want to publish. It is not a title for a proposal. This is a title for when you have done the work. Because you say neuroprotective effects, that means you have done the work. You already know that water leaf aqueous extract has a neuroprotective effect. Then the question that we ask the person is, if you already know that water leaf has a neuroprotective, why are you writing a proposal to study it again? So that is why you have the last one that said assessment of neuroprotective potential. So I am assessing it. So for a proposal now, I am writing a proposal for grant or for whatever application you have. The last title is an ideal title for a proposal. It's something you've not done. I've not done it, so I am assessing it. But after I've finished my work and I want to publish my data, the second title in blue, it's good for a reporting, for reporting purposes. These are practical examples. Okay, so let's move forward. Introduction. Your introduction must establish your context, good literature review. You want to tell me what you have done, what has been done before. You want to also add to it information about previous studies, and then what is missing, what is the gap you want to cover, and then you have to include the statement of the problem. Now, I will tell you again my personal experience, what I prefer to do in the introduction. This also goes for if you need to write executive summary or you need to write an abstract. Some grants we call it introduction, some we say background, whichever one it is. Now, for example, in my area, I like to start from the statement of the problem. So I like to first of all present to you the problem. Why am I even doing this? And I like to make it as elaborate as possible. So I will tell you, oh, I am trying to study an intervention for Alzheimer's disease because right now in 2025 epidemiologic data, Alzheimer's disease has killed so number of people in the world In Africa, where I come from, it has three, and I back it up with verifiable data from reputable sources like Alzheimer's Association or World Health Organization, for example. So from the beginning, in the mind of the assessor, I've already let the person know that there's a problem, and then this is the problem I'm trying to solve. So by the time the person will already agree, yes, there is a problem. Or we say, oh, malaria is still a problem in Africa. It is still killing a lot of children. A lot of pregnant mothers are still dying, according to statistics released by so. And please quote correct statistics. Don't quote wrong, because it can be verified, and you don't want to drop the ball at that junction. So according to social statistics, this is the number of people, pregnant women or infants that die from malaria in Africa, in sub-Saharan Africa, in this. And this shows that between 2026, there was an increase compared to 2025, and then you show that progression. One or two statements, you have created an excitement, something to look forward to in that person. So I said, then you come down to why you want to study it, you justify your work, this is why I'm bringing this intervention, and then you end with a clear rationale. This is the problem, this is my hypothesis, and I believe that this hypothesis can solve this problem. Then let's come to the problem statement. Like I said, you have to have a statement of the problem. Very important. And it should be, I strongly encourage that it should be statistic driven. Don't just be bogus about it and say malaria is still a problem in Africa. We know, but statistics, because this is science, this is not a marketplace a campaign. It is science. So you should be statistics driven. Scientists are always happy, they are excited when you have statistics to show. And this doesn't cost you much. The statistics are there in the public domain, depending on your area. If it is, for example, biomedical sciences, you get your statistics in reputable sources. Don't forget, don't go and get, according to Wikipedia. I don't have issues with Wikipedia, but in science, Wikipedia is not, for example, epidemiology data, it is not ascribed to be a scientific source. Go to standard sources, World Health Organization. If you are in humanities, you can quote maybe according to this government, according to these government sources, verifiable sources. Okay, so these are very important for you. All right, so now, again, after you have a good statement of the problem, you've let us know what is the problem, objectives. Sometimes you may need to write a general objectives or an aim, and then you need to, after that, you need to outline what are your specific objectives. And then in your specific objectives, you need to make it, your specific objectives should capture majority of your methodology, what you want to do. You already said this is the problem. I want to use this plant to cure Parkinson disease, like the question I said. Now, what are my objectives? My objective to say, first of all, I will determine the phytochemicals in that plant. Then after determining the phytochemicals, I will start. Don't say I will take 100 people who have malaria. No, science doesn't have it. We expect you to start from a cell-free system. You don't start by testing your crude plant on human. That is somersault. Okay, I will start by testing it in a cell-free in vitro system. Then I will graduate into use experimental models, maybe Drosophila, like I said, maybe C. elegans, depending on whichever model is accessible to you. Then maybe from there, based on my result, then I will graduate to clinical trial. You see the step by step, these are the objectives. And the objectives return. Make sure your objectives are also coincide, should not be more than, maybe depending on the kind of study, should not be more than 4 or 5 at the most. Okay, sorry, this should have come earlier. Sometimes between introduction and your objective, you will have literature review. Literature reviews, some grants we ask you to have literature review separate from introduction. Some will say introduction first, literature review later. But what applies to introduction also applies to literature review. It's just that literature review give you more room to expand what you are trying to say in the introduction section. Please, what I will say before leaving here is use relevant references. If you are looking for grants to do your master's, you are looking for grants to do your PhD, show some commitment, show the evaluator that you're serious. Don't go and cite 1996 data again in 2026 and you say you've done literature review. No. My rule, which I give my students, general rule, I say 10 years. But you can do even better than that because don't forget again, this is competition. So your ability to show that you do a good job at this point, relevant, recent references. Okay, so then we come to methodology. You must have a study design depending on what you're doing. Experimental procedure should be clear, should be concise. Then you have a good sample size. Like I said the other time, for example, if you are using animals, you know that there are ethical considerations for using some type of animal. Most vertebrate animals, you need to have ethical consideration for them. So you don't want to, I need to be very fast now, my time is almost gone. So you want to justify why you are taking, I'm using 40 rats. Don't say your study design requires 40 Wistar rats. Then don't say I need 100. It shows that you are not giving consideration for ethics. A weak methodology is a common reason proposal fail. Please take note of that. Then, what are your outcomes and impacts? Very important. Funders, nobody throws money around, I'm telling you. Now, they may not expect you to solve all the problem, but the little you can do, they want to see what is your impact. What is going to be the scientific contribution? What is going to be the society policy? What is going to be the policy impactation? What is going to be the translational potential, depending on what you're doing? Now, the simple logic I will give you here is that if there is the sustainable development goals, which I see that cut across many fields. If you're in sciences, if you're in social sciences, basic medical sciences, clinical sciences, you will see one or two sustainable development goals that fit into your work. Most of the time, there is reduction of hunger, reduction of infant and child mortality, etc. So most of the time in this place, a good advice I can give is try to see how you can incorporate one or two sustainability development goals that, at the end of the day, the data or the findings I get from this study, we hope to solve sustainable development goal A or 1 or 2 or 3 or 14 or 13, as the case may be. That is a good, easy target for you. It's just an advice, of course, you can do even much more than that. Okay, now let's come to budget. I need to spend some time here, please. My time is really fast spent. All right, so budget. Not all proposals will require you for budget, but some will require you for budget. And it is important for you to do a good job. Now, quickly, your budget must align with guideline. In case they say prepare a budget, what is the guideline for the budget? How much is the maximum amount? Don't exceed the maximum amount, except if they say, okay, you are allowed to get funding from other sources. So you can say, okay, I need $10,000 in total, even if the call says maximum is $5,000. And then you will write it there that the other $5,000, I'm going to get it from, I'm going to apply for another grant. But if the grant or the call or the application does not allow for combinations, if the maximum is 5,000, make sure your budget does not fall 5,000. And then another guideline is sometimes the guideline has already stipulated what percentage will go for what. So 20% is for your travel if you need to travel. 40% is for you to buy your consumable. So percent is for you for your subsistence, etc. like that. don't exceed that. Exceeding those ones can disqualify you outrightly. Justify why you need to buy a pencil. Don't just say, I need a laptop. Why do you need to buy it? You should be able to justify it. And then be realistic with it. Okay, be realistic. Don't forget that this is this is a digital world. Everything you put there is verifiable online. So don't just give arbitrary values when you are requested to give values. Now give realistic values, but at the same time be proactive. Factor in, oh, okay, I'm applying for this call. It may take another 6 to 12 months before it is approved. So you can realistically budget for inflations in a way. So that is still part of being realistic, but be proactive. And then be detailed and then use reliable vendors. Don't say according to a vendor. Most funders want you to use standard company sources, not just open markets or random online stores. Okay, so I have said most of these things, and in your grant applications, you must be sure that innovation, feasibility, methodology, they are very important. So because of time, let's look at this. So again, like an overview, why does grant fail now? From all I've said, unclear objective is a very big reason why your application can fail. May it be grants, may it be graduate program application, weak methodology, insufficient preliminary data. Your preliminary data may come from literature, depending on the kind of grants you're applying for. For the level of graduate studies, your preliminary data can come from literature. But for a big grant, your preliminary data may be your own work. Poor budget justification, like I said, lack of innovation when you are trying to do what has been done before, then poor writing. Poor writing, is is another major issue. When you just, write poorly. So let me quickly run through this. So after you've done all you need to do, and then let's quickly, within the next 5 minutes, because our time is fast spent, I'll just quickly run through academic writings. I will just focus on publication writing. Uh, uh, so again, I have given a previous talk on this. Let's just quickly go over it again. So when we talk of publications, you have your research articles, review articles, as the case may be. But let's say, for example, you want to write a research article. You've been gracious to get the grant, you've done the work, now you want to publish. Congratulations. So this again are some of the structures. Some of you have been opportune to write 1 or 2 papers. Most manuscripts will have introduction, abstract, introduction, method, results, then discussion, and conclusion. Now, let me just quickly give you some of the tips that will help you to have a good publication success whenever you are reporting your data. After you've prepared your results, you've done fantastic science, you've gotten your results, your supervisor, everybody has helped you to check your data. First things that will help you is follow whichever journal you choose, follow the guidelines. Editors, I have been privileged to serve as editor and as guest editor and associate editor for 1 or 2 journals. Editors are pissed off when you don't follow their guidelines. So this might, encourage desk rejection. Desk rejection is when your paper is not even sent for peer review and they just throw it back at you. This is one of the reasons for desk rejection. Now, for referencing, it can be a very challenging task, especially when your paper was rejected in journal A, and then you want to take it to journal B, and journal A is using APA, journal B is using Vancouver. What I will advise is learn to use reference manager. This is 2026. I want to encourage as a matter of every AYS mentee should be familiar with at least one reference. They make your life easy. So if you need to format to another journal style, it's just with a click, 1 or 2 click of the button, and everything changes and you don't have to start all over again. Thirdly, before you send out your paper, perform plagiarism check yourself. Okay, it's good. And give yourself a standard. You can start with maybe 20-25%. I believe from my own experience, most journals still tolerate 20-25% because of redundancy of methodology. So, and luckily there are many AI tools that helps with plagiarism check. Go for the reputable ones and then do plagiarism check yourself to know where you are. And then ensure you do good statistical analysis of the data. Don't say what you don't conclude what your result have not said. Don't over speculate. Just present what you have. Now, sometimes, there's this temptation to over impress and then make your result exceptionally bogus. No, just present what you have. If it is not significantly different, say it is not significantly different. I learned many years ago a term from one of my supervisors that you can say, oh, A is increasing more than B, but it is not statistically significant. Okay, so you've passed the message, but you said it's not statistically significant. So, but don't just be too bogus and trying to, paint pictures that the data does not give. And do good proofreading. Again, this time we have a lot of tools out there that helps with grammar check. So some of these are free, some of them you need to pay. Whichever one you have access to, please, let's use it, because these are one of the reasons why your papers get rejected easily. So let's look at some of, for example, some of these are tools of that you can use. Mendeley, EndNote, Zotero, they are good reference manager. Cobalt, Grammarly, they are good. They also have their own reference manager, and then they also help you to check your grammar. So please, it is good for you to use them. Now, please, when you've done all this, publish well. This is in AYS. I believe if you have been privileged to be here, one of the things should be your goal is you need to publish well. And what do I mean by publish well? Avoid predatory journal. If you look at this link, thinkchecksubmit.org, it gives you a link to how you can easily identify a predatory journal. There are so many predatory journals. Avoid predatory journals. Then publish in reputable and visible journals. What do I mean by reputable? Publish in journals that a journal is asking you to pay for article processing charge does not mean they are not reputable. No, that's not what I'm saying. Reputable means that they've done a good peer review, a good editorial work. How do you quickly know a journal that is not reputable? When you submit a paper to a journal on Friday and then you receive acceptance on Sunday, it's a red flag. I don't even expect you to go to that one, because except you have done a very fantastic science, that is almost too good to be true. So, or a paper that is saying, oh, we are just interested, you pay, and this day you see so much in social media, give us this money, and please avoid also push mails, mails that will say we need one more paper to meet our targets. Those are red flags. They will send mails to you, they will praise you, they will sing your praises, they will tell you you are a fantastic scientist, send us your data, we want to publish it. Don't do that. Then visible journals. What do I mean? When you are submitting your applications and you submit your CV, for example, you want to go for PhD and you've done your master's and you've been privileged to publish your paper. And at the end of the day, I am reviewing your PhD applications and you submitted 10 papers from your master's. And I put all the 10 in Google Scholar, for example, and I can't see any one of them. There's a problem. It means that you've published, no doubt, but you are not visible. Most likely you've published in journals that are not visible. And in this year and age, any journal that is still not at least on Google Scholar is in all my sincerity, should not be considered a journal that can help your scientific development. So please watch out for that. Because I've seen instances, people say, I have a lot of publications, and then you say, okay, let me check. And then you don't see all of these journals online. So watch out. So before you submit your paper, check how feasible that journal is. Check when was the last time they published. Some journals are visible, but the last issue they published was in 2024. Another red flag, run away. It means that the journal may be visible, but there's a problem with that journal, most likely. Then number 3, I would say, is try journals with good webometric indices. Webometric is a lot, and because of time, we can't go too much into it. But for example, some of webometric indices are impact factor, H-index, site score, etc. These are indices of good journals. They are, for now, globally acceptable indices of good journal to some extent, although it is not, it's not everybody that agree on using this to score journals, but it is largely acceptable in most scientific community that you can use impact factor, H-index, site score to know which journal is good or which journal is not good. So try these journals, and please note that, for example, impact factor is only issued by ISI, Thomson Reuters, or Clarivate. If your impact factor is, if a journal say they have impact factor, that is the in this indexing database that officially owns impact factor. Some journals can calculate their own impact factor and they will say they have impact factor 10. Congratulations to them, but the best people that really have impact factors are from Seruta and Clarity. So when you see impact factor, we check again, is the journal indexed in ISI Thomson Reuters. So these are ways of you knowing. So when you go to the journal website, again, this is part of Visible. I don't expect you in this time to publish in a journal that does not even have a website. Then you go to their indexing, and then there's a section in every journal website that should have indexing. And then if they say they are indexed in Google Scholar, Scopus, ISI Thomson Reuters, those are indices of good journals and where you can start from. Some of these journals, depending on all these indices, are very hard to go. But of course, like I use the word try. When you don't say it is difficult, some people say, oh, it's difficult to break into this journal. But I tell you, it is feasible, because these are what will give your CV a good outlook and a good impression that you are doing good science. Okay. And again, not all of them are collecting money. Some are free, absolutely free. And then I've put some of the publishers of, this is by no means an exhaustive list, but these are some well-known, reputable journal publishing companies. So when you see any journals published by Springer, Elsevier, Taylor Francis, Wiley, Sage, De Gruyter, etc., like that, they have, I can tell you confidently that they are reputable. Quickly, AI. I need to talk about, because when we talk of writing proposal, we need to talk about the use of AI. AI has come to stay. We have come to accept it, whether we like it or not. Our students use AI and we have to accept it. But what we canvas for now is responsible use of AI. So AI can assist you with language editing. Like I've said, you can use Kubos, Grammarly. It can also help you with literature searching. Yes, I use AI also to do random literature search. But when I need to do in-depth literature search, and then I go in-depth into those journals. But when I quickly need to do a random, of course, me, myself, I also use it. So you can use it for you can be a start point, but it should not be your only reliance, because the caution there is that AI has been known also to have its own drawbacks. Sometimes they give you unexisting references. So these are where you need to be cautious. And because sometimes it will say this, and then we give you this reference, and then you go to that reference and you see that the reference is either not existing or not say down. So you see why there's a need to be cautious in that. And then it can help you to generate ideas, no doubt about it. It can help you to know, okay, has this thing been done? You have an idea in your head, and then you just put it on maybe ChatGPT, or you put it on Copilot, and then you quickly say, has this thing been done before? And then it can quickly tell you, oh, this has been done, this is what has been done. And then you can quickly know if to go forward or reform your idea. So I believe these are some of the ways you can responsibly use AI in your research, in your writing journeys. But again, what should you not use AI for? Don't rely on AI to just reason for you, absolutely on scientific reasoning. You are killing your own. One thing that writing does for you is that it stimulates your imaginations, it stimulates your creativity. So when you rely on AI to think for you alone, I was opportune to visit a museum recently, and then one of the things he said there was a caption there that said the best of AIs cannot replace the human touch, and I think I buy that idea. Then don't use AI to interpret your data. That is your responsibility. That is the human touch you're talking about. You may need AI to, put your data together maybe in a more presentable way, but don't say it should do all the interpretation for you. And then you must be ethical in how you use it. If you have many journals today now give sections for how you have used AI, you should disclose it. I do this, and recently I published a paper, and then I used one of the AI tools to design the graphical abstract. And I disclosed it in the paper that the graphical abstract was used to design AI. This so AI tool was used to design the graphical abstract, but the data from the images we use, or the data information we use to design it, the input we got was from our own write-up, and we disclose it. So you must be ethical enough. So by summary, this is your journey from research idea to funding to publication, and then you have an idea, your idea gives you a question, you develop it into a proposal, you look for funding, you are successful, you get the funding, you go to data collection. And if you are not successful in getting the funding this time, please don't be discouraged. You try again and again and again and again. And you go to data collection, you analyze your data, you write your manuscript, you publish, and then you are making impact. So what is our take home from today? One, strong research begin with a good, strong question. Don't forget again, your question does not have to come from AI all the time. For example, it could come from our everyday life experience. And I believe that will give you more interest. Competitive proposal requires clarity and feasibility. Don't forget, I've said it, that most proposals you are applying for, anytime you are applying for a funding for maybe for a graduate study, for a research grant, there are a lot of you that are also applying. My host was discussing with me recently. She had an application to get PhD. She had the funding to get PhD in the lab for about maybe 4 or 5 positions. And she was telling me about 70 something or 80 something people applied. And she was having an headache of how to even screen them. So you can see the ratio of applicants to slots. So you need to be up with your game. Funders support impactful and innovative projects, no doubt about it. Scientific writing is essential for successful publications. You need to have a good writing. Now, this is a loop. This is a cycle, rather. You are able to get funding, you do good science, you write good paper, you publish. Tomorrow you want to apply for a fund, you should be able to tell the new funder what you did with the money you got from the first funder. Some people will not give you money because they will say, have you won a grant before? And then in your CV, you say you want $2,000. Let's even say you want $1,000 in 2024, and then you have nothing to show for the $1,000. It may raise a question. Yeah, sometimes you may say, okay, what if the research fails? Of course, research may fail. Again, this is why when you are on bench, you need to be dynamic, you need to be proactive, you need to be flexible enough, because sometimes right on the bench, you already know the directions. So you must be able to adjust your questions into the reality of what you're seeing. So when you're applying for a new grant in 2026, you should be able to say, when I got so in 2024, this is what I used, and this is the outcome. And in today's world, for now, one of the easiest way to know, to assess productivity in scientific world is your publications, is the conferences you attend, the papers you present in conferences, and then maybe you're able to get one or two patents. These are ways of still ranking productivity. And finally, research impact depends on effective communication. How well are you able to communicate your interests? You must be passionate. You must be you should show us that it's interesting to you. So thank you very much. I've taken more than your time. It's been a good opportunity talking to you, and I think we can take questions now. Thank you very much. Over to you, the moderator.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Ogunsi, for that insightful and thought-provoking presentation. And on behalf of everybody here, I want to say thank you for sharing your knowledge and insights with us. And I'm sure that everyone here will agree that today's session has provided practical lessons and valuable perspective that we can apply in our academic and research journeys. So now we'll proceed to the question and answer session. I'll quickly take the questions that we have in the chat box. So if you have any question, like I said before, kindly drop it in the chat section and I'll be taking them one after the other. Or if you would like to ask your question verbally, you could raise your hand and then you'll be acknowledged. So the first question on the chat here is by Ruth, and she said, "Sir, what if there are no guidelines for the budget?"
Okay, that's good. Most of the time, if the funders ask you to write a budget, they will give a guideline. But let's assume your question is correct and there's no guideline. Then you should be, like I said, you can formulate your own guideline in that special circumstance. And of course, you will not be penalized for it, but your guideline should still meet the basic conditions. Even if they don't have a guideline, as you said, they will have a maximum cap. Except again, they say, okay, we don't have a maximum cap, ask for as much as you want. If that's the case, okay, you can go ahead. If these two rare conditions apply, then in that instance, what you need to do is to be is to make sure that you are practicable enough. Okay, you are practicable enough. You do not exceed the you are realistic with the amount you are asking. You are realistic with the amount you're asking. And then you ask for the money that can meet the item. For example, you say you want to buy, let's assume you want to buy a thermometer. And we all know that a thermometer costs, let's assume, $100. So even if there are no guidelines, you don't want to come and say your own thermometer is $1,000. You know, by that, you are already showing that you are not being realistic. So that will help. So you want to be as realistic as possible. Oh, okay, I'm buying thermometer is $100. You can still say it's $105 and $110 because I already told you that you should also be proactive because you may be submitting the proposal when thermometer is $100, and then when it will be approved, sometimes it could take 6 months for the application to go through the cycle of evaluation. And eventually, by the time they will approve it, the thermometer has jumped to $110. And some grant does not give you room to adjust the budget after the approval. So at that point, you already want to say, okay, I am projecting. So if you stay is 105 or 110, you won't be penalized because they also know that your cost. I've had an experience whereby at the point of approval, I was asked to review my budget to meet the current reality because month has passed since when I submitted it. But sometimes you may not get the opportunity, so you may be realistically proactive in your budgeting to cater for inflation. But don't say because I want to cater for inflation, you now increase the figure by, let's say, 300%. Okay, that one you are not doing well. So I think that's where I will answer that question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. So the next question here is from Victoria, and she said, kindly recommend unpaid algorithm checker, sir.
Come again.
Kindly recommend unpaid algorithm checker.
Unpaid.
Yes.
That's that question. How do I answer? Yeah, there are free ones. Even the paid ones will still give you opportunity to use their free service. But what I will tell you is that even the free service has limits. Some of them, even the unpaid ones, will tell you you can only do maximum of, let's say, 500 words, 1,000 words. You and I know that your proposal sometimes may be more than 1,000 words. So the unpaid services have their limitations. So sincerely, I would not advise you to go for the unpaid services. Now, the question you want to ask me is that, sir, I don't have money. Yes, I understand. If you can afford the paid subscription, go. But if you cannot afford it, have some good networks. Some of your mentors and your senior colleagues have access to this. Some countries have access to it. Some of your lecturers, the universities are subscribed for them, and then they have access to these platforms. You can meet them to help you out so that you use those subscribed platforms and you get the real thing. For example, most journals today, I know, most reputable journals use Turnitin. Most of them use Turnitin. So that is based on that, we advise you that when you are using for plagiarism checker, use Turnitin because it's good for you to use what most of all these journals and universities are using. So most universities use Turnitin. So it is water. So if you don't have paid subscription, form a network, and that's why it's good for you to have good networks. Form a network with your supervisors, and that's why it's good for you to be of good to have good relationships because you will need these things. Your mentors, your friends. Some of you have friends in other countries, so some of them have access to these, and then they can help you to run it. And I think that will be better than using, I won't advise you really, because the unpaid one will not give you the true picture. And you think some of them will give you, they will say you have 8% plagiarism. And when you go to Turnitin will tell you you have 45% plagiarism. These are what I have seen. All right.
Okay, thank you, sir. So the next question is from Suba. Do grantors usually require virtual presentation of accepted proposals before awarding grants?
Do they as uh this question is a bit contradictory. Is the person trying to say, will they ask him to make a virtual presentation before they give him the award?
Yes, I believe so, sir.
Oh, okay. If that's the question, it's not always the case. Every funder has their own style. Some don't ask you for any meeting. Some will ask you. So that is why, but I can show you that most of them will have told you the journey you will go through right in the call. So that is why you should take a time to read the proposal, the guideline before you even start. They will tell you, most of them will tell you that this is the process of evaluation, and if you pass through this stage, you may be asked to do interview. There are some that do interview, for example, there are many that do interview. In UK, Welcome Trust do interview at a stage, and then they will tell you. So you will get this information from the guideline for you to know what to prepare for. So there's no one size fits all. Thank you. Next question.
Okay, still from the same person. How is the certainty of AI detection softwares?
Thank you for that question. It is not, AI detectors are not absolute. In fact, most of the AI softwares will even give you that caution there that, uh, for example, I know the one I use, will always tell me that don't use our score to to discredit anybody, because it is not 100% absolute. So again, AI is fantastic. It's an emerging field. It's helping us to do a lot of good work. I am very enthusiastic about it. It helps in its own way. But like I told you, it is not absolute yet. So you must give it its own degree of error. And then that is why it is not absolutely correct. But at least it gives you a pointer. So for example, if I run your proposal and then it says AI of let's say 40% AI detected. Now, what I am supposed to do, responsible thing for me to do as your evaluator, is to read the footnotes that the software will give me. Most of the software we had a footnote. So they will tell you the confidence interval. They will tell you that, okay, based on our software, this and this is our degree of acceptability. This is the error margin in our software. So every evaluator should also know that. And then if you're also using it, you must take note of all those uh, footnotes, also all those side comments from the software. Some of them will tell you, okay, this is our degree of error. So you may have 40%. Their degree of error may be plus or minus 10, some plus or minus 15%. So you need to also understand the kind of tool you are using and know their degree of error. And that's why they will always say interpret it with caution. Because even me myself, I've had instances whereby what I know I wrote from myself, I put it and here I said is here. I just laughed. So I've had that experience, and then they are good to help us, but they have to be interpreted with caution, and they're using the stipulated guidelines and the error margins of the software. So they should not be used, those softwares should not be used arbitrarily. You must understand the workings of the software you are using. Thank you. Next question.
Okay, finally from the same person. It has become a norm to add seniors to the grant team for possibility of winning the grant. In a similar, in a way similar to gifted authorship. Is that necessary?
Well, let me start from the last comment. In the case of proposals, it may not be the same as gifted authorship. They are totally different things. And I will tell you some reasons why if the grant is a team grant, of course, it's not all grants. Some grants are individual grants. You are the only applicant. But when it's a team grant that that the founders say you should have a team. It can't be one person. You should build a team of maybe 4 or 5. That's when you need other people. But in grantmanship, adding a senior colleague is not the same thing as gifted authorship. They are totally different stories. And this is the reason for it. Now, in grantmanship, depending on your level, the funder may be looking at, when they are scoring, number one, they want to score experience. Very important. See, depending on how much you are asking for, no funder will give you, most often, no funder will give you, let's say, £50,000 on your first grant application. I'm not saying it cannot happen, but it's rare. Mark my word, I'm not saying it cannot happen, but it is very rare. Why? Because they want to see your grant management skill. How have you managed £1,000? How have you managed £2,000? And that's why in the application, they will say list your previous grants. They want to see what you've done with them, and they want to see your level of productivity. Now, in the case of a group grant, you may not have managed 50,000 pounds worth of grant. But if you have a senior colleague who has had that experience, and then you include the person in that proposal, the funder will be rest assured that, oh, okay, even though you don't have that experience, you have a person in the team that have a grant management experience, because grant management is a lot of work. It's not a tea party. Okay, how you manage the money, how you manage the fund is a skill on its own, and it comes by experience. It's not something that just jump on you by impactation. So if they now see that you have a senior colleague, and then when they see the person's CV you submitted, and they see this person has won £100,000, oh, they are rest assured that, okay, when we give you this money, although you are the PI, but they believe that because you have Professor ABC in your team, you will be able to manage the grant, even though you yourself, you don't have that experience. That is one reason why it is good. Second reason is that for expertise purpose, in a group project, you cannot do everything, because most of the time, those proposals that will require many people, they are always proposals that are cross-cuttings. They are proposals that will involve different fields. So you can't be the clinician, you can't be the basic medical scientist, you can't be the anatomist, you can't be the chemist, you can't be the botanist at the same time. It's not possible. So they expect you to bring in other people. And then in bringing other people, it's not wise for you to bring in less experienced people than yourself. That doesn't make any sense. So you also want to bring in people that have experience in that work. Now, what do I mean by experience? Experience is not just by saying I have experience. Remember I said during the presentations that for now, the way we know who is productive in academic world is by your publications, by your patents, by your products. So if you have if your professor is well published in that area, maybe more than you, it counts for you, because if they ask you to form a group, I can assure you that they are going to score each of you. They want to score your competence, they want to score your experience, they want to score your grant management skills, and they want to score your relevance. So you see that it's not the same thing. And then finally, maybe let's assume you are an early career scientist, and then the proposal is a big money. For example, if it's a lot of money, they may need you to have a mentor. That, okay, we are giving you £100,000. We know you are earlier career, but you should have a mentor in that team. And in that case, you need a senior colleague. So they are not the same thing. So depending on the case, we justify it, why you should bring it. The one that I think will be unethical is for you to bring in a senior colleague that doesn't have any relevance in the fork. For example, in the example I gave in my presentation, I want to see how how water leaf can be used to manage Parkinson's disease. That is entirely a basic medical science, health-related work. If I bring a senior colleague in chemistry, in um, in physiology, in anatomy, in any of the basic medical field, or I go and bring in a clinician in that area, a neurologist, it's still acceptable. But if I go and bring in a geologist, for example, and because the geologist is my father's friend and is a professor, and what is the role of geologists in that kind of work? And I cannot say this is what Professor XYZ will do. I just put him there because he's a professor. That is the area I will agree it is unethical. But as long as you can prove the relevance of senior colleague to it, then it is allowed based on the prevailing circumstances. So you see that this is different from gifted publications. Gifted publication is a totally different ball game. And depending again, I don't know if we should dive into it today because it's going to take a lot of time. But it depends on the circumstances that brought about the authorship issue. And then in terms of publication, you have to treat each case based on its own merits, but they are totally different. I don't know if I've answered the question satisfactorily.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. We have 3 more questions and then we'll wrap up this session. The first question is from Randy, and he asked, do we have a recommended percentage AI detection? If yes, what percentage? Can you recommend the best site or app for AI detection? Apart from Turnit, which app or site can be used?
Thank you. There's no global standard for that yet. It is still discretional based on what you want to do, except the person or the funder gave you in their guideline, but it's still your discretion. But you that you are writing, and then if you have 40%, 30% AI detected, you already know you are not making sense. You want to keep it as low as possible. I think that's the logical thing to do. So as far as I know, I may not be 100% correct, but as far as I know, I don't think there's a benchmark set across the world like, okay, 10% is acceptable. No, but I know that you keep it as low as possible. For plagiarism, even plagiarism, there's no globally acceptable level. Each setting, each system tells you what they accept. Some journals, for example, we say we accept 20%, some say 25%, some say 10%. So it depends on what they ask you. But my advice, like I told you, for example, for my students, for undergraduates, for example, I say, okay, 25%. For postgraduates, I bring it down a little bit, maybe 15% or 10%, as the case may be. And then the higher they go, the more it becomes, it gets reduced. So my advice is keep it as low as possible to avoid rejections. You want to keep it as low as possible. And then in terms of recommendations, well, there are many out there. In order not to sound like I'm doing any marketing, the one I use, which helped me with my grammar checker, which I also use for AI detection for maybe my students' work, because especially undergraduates, I had meeting with my undergraduate student yesterday, and I told them that go and write your final year project, but be rest assured that I have resources to check your plagiarism, I have resources to check your AI level. So I've told them above hand, and so they know. So I use Schoolboat, for example. I've been using it, and that's what I use. But I know there are others, there are Grammarly, there are other software out there, and that's the one I use. So I can't say this one is better than that one, but Schoolboat is the one I've been using. So I'm not entirely I can recommend it because I've been using it, but I'm not in any way saying it's better than the others. Thank you. And
Okay,
therefore,
thank you very much.
sorry for plagiarism. Like I said, I use Turnitin because most of universities across the world, most journals, reputable journals at that, use Turnitin for now. So that's why I will recommend Turnitin, because that's what most people or most settings, most universities use. So I can tell you that 95%, if any journal or any funder or any person you're applying for graduate study is going to check your level of plagiarism, is most likely going to use Turnitin. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Another question here from Mark. Is it acceptable to use old references for established protocols with older foundational manuals, especially in the methods section, most of which are older than 10 years?
Absolutely correct. Yes, in methodology is allowed. Yes, that is the exception. Sorry, I didn't mention that during the presentation. For methodology, is allowed. So, for example, you are determining protein by Bradford, or you are using Bradford method, 1950 something or 1960 something. That method hasn't changed. So there's no point breaking your sweat over that. Bradford method is Bradford method. Biuret method is Biuret method. So it's allowed in that section to use old references as long as it's protocol, except in cases where those protocols have been significantly revised and then they have been improved upon. Even in that context, what I do is that I am going to do this test according to 1969 as revised by 2025. Because you must still give credit to the original source. And then you say it has been refined by the new person. So that is how to go about that. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you, sir. The final question here is from Temitope, and she asked, Sir, you mentioned a few key points to consider when writing for a grad/PhD program. Could you please share a few other areas that international students in particular should pay close attention to, like how to present undergrad research well, and so on?
Okay, I think I need to read this again. I mentioned key points to consider when writing a good PhD proposal. Will you share a few other areas that international students in particular should pay close attention to, like how to present undergrad research well? I'm trying to understand this person, and is the person online? If you're online, can you unmute yourself? And I don't know. I'm trying to, I don't want to misinterpret you. Uh, if the person is online, maybe you can unmute yourself and ask directly. Otherwise, I will try and answer it the best way I understand. So if you're online, please, you can unmute yourself and speak, even while I speak. I don't know, or maybe you raise your hand up. I don't know if you can unmute. Maybe the person can raise and then the
Good
moderator
day,
can
sir.
answer. Okay, fantastic. So please, can I understand you better?
Okay, yeah, good day, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you for the opportunity. So, yeah, my question is that you mentioned a few key points to consider when writing for grads, program, PhD, and so on. So, could you please just share a few other areas that international students, particularly Nigerian, should actually pay close attention to? And then this is basically for the statement of purpose, how to present the undergraduate research role. Yeah. You also
Okay.
mentioned the ratio, the applicant, and the space. So how can
Are
an
you
applicant
trying
actually
to
write it to
are you trying
positions
to
of?
say that, for example, you are trying to apply for a this is how I understand your question. So I want you to correct me in any way I'm wrong. You are a Nigerian, you are in Nigeria, you are applying for a foreign graduate program, maybe PhD, and then you want to know how to present the work you did in undergraduate. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yes, sir. Correct, sir.
All right. So in that context, um, if you've done an undergraduate work and you were able to, for example, publish it, although it's sometimes very rare, but if you were fortunate and you and your supervisor were able to push it to the level of publication, it makes your job very easy. You just refer them to the publication, and that solves all the problem. If you are also fortunate and is a reputable journal, uh, and then you can refer them to it. But if you were not privileged enough and you don't have an opportunity for, let's say, a virtual presentation to present what you do, in your statement of purpose or personal statement, as the case may be, when you are applying, most of the graduate applications, we ask you to write a personal statement or a statement of purpose. In preparing that, you can bring it up and say, when I was doing my undergraduate, this is what I did, and this is how I did it. This is my contribution to the work. This is what I learned, and these are the outcomes from it. So this is where you can easily incorporate it. And then the evaluator will easily see that, okay, you did something in your undergraduate. Of course, in your CV, you would have included the title of your dissertation in your undergraduate or master's, as the case may be. Uh, so in your personal statement, if you didn't publish it, you can easily just make mention of it. And then you would have easily captured that point. Again, if the application give you room to write research experience, some may come with the some may come with the opportunity for you to write on your research experience. Okay, so you can also bring it up in that aspect, and then you bring it up there. But if they don't have a section for you to write on your research experience, you can write it in your statement of purpose. And but if you have an opportunity to do a virtual presentation, then you can prepare a short, concise PowerPoint presentation, and then you give them, and then you do it there. But for masters, if, for example, you are going for, this is in case you are going from, let's say, masters, and we are talking about undergraduate research. But if it is masters work you are talking about, let's say you are applying for PhD, I will strongly advise you that if you are a master's student or you are finished masters, you are applying for PhD scholarship, do everything possible, uh, working with your supervisor to publish your master's research, because and publish it well, because undergraduates that you didn't publish your undergraduate work can be forgiven in science, because we know at undergraduate level you are just starting. You may not even know your right from left as a scientist, as a researcher. You were mostly guided by your supervisor, and then most of the time undergraduate research in Nigeria, or I don't know, most African countries are drawn in groups, and then it's just for you to have the initial experience. So you can easily be forgiven if you don't have a publication to show as for your undergraduate project. But for masters, it becomes difficult to be forgiven because you mentioned competition. Sincerely, that may be, it is not always the case, but in most of the case, that is one of the easiest way that evaluators, first of all, screen. Because once they see that, oh, this one has a paper from his master's, that one does not have a paper, they would force, because now let me tell you the psychology of it. This is the psychology of it. See, nobody is giving free money anywhere in the world. And a professor in the US or in the UK that wants to take you as a PhD student wants you to come and do the work for him, or wants you to come and do a research in his lab, and he is also looking for you in a way contributing to his lab, contributing to his own work. So nobody wants to bring in a liability. Nobody wants to bring in anybody that will not be productive. Nobody wants to bring in anybody that will not do the work. Now, don't forget I said you submitted documents and you are not there to speak for yourself. I have your document before me. All I can see is your story. So I have to pick the pieces within the short, and I have hundreds of applicants to evaluate. So first thing I will use to judge your level of productivity is what were you able to do with your master's project? And if I see that you had good publication, again, underline the word good publication. We've talked about that in the presentation. It's a good sign for me that, oh yes, this person did a good work. It tells me that you were productive. It tells me that you did a good work, because for your paper to have been accepted in a good journal shows that you did a good work. It tells me that you are likely going to have some good scientific background to some level that you can bring about. So you see, it has answered a lot of questions in the mind of the person. So again, like I said, some other scientists may not use that yardstick. Some may want to hear your story, some may be moved by your story, but when they have a lot of people to screen, everybody will look for the easiest yardstick to screen out. Things like this all of you have masters, isn't it? All of you graduated. So the easiest thing to do is let's look for what differentiates candidate A from candidate B. And in academics publication, good publication, don't forget, is a way. So for masters, please do everything. Even if you have finished your masters and you have not published your result, please go on back to your supervisor. If you have fought with your supervisor when you finish masters, maybe you feel I don't need you again. Maybe this is a way for you to go and reconcile. Because if you still want to do your PhD, I would strongly advise you publish your master's work. It will give you a good foot ahead. Thank you very much. I don't know if I've been able to answer your question. Okay, moderator.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
All right. Moderator, I think we have additional questions now. One more. Am I correct?
Yes, one additional question. Yes.
Okay.
So the question from Randy is asking, in proposal write-up, will there be a need to add AI disclosure, or you will only need to add when requested?
Okay, in this context, for proposal, if the guideline does not ask you to disclose, you may not necessarily have to disclose, because it's still a proposal. Proposal is proposal. Proposal is not anything scientific binding. And in fact, that is why, initially I told you that even if you have been opportune to be given the funding and then you start the work, your proposal can be modified as we go on, because you have an hypothesis to test, and nothing says that when you start collecting your data, everything will work as you have outlined it will go. Things change. Some things will not work. Are you telling me? And then, are you getting my point now? So you may have to even modify some of your objective as you go on. You may have to change some things. You may have to change strategies. And then as you start getting results, those results will start telling you if objectives 2, 3, 4 will be realistic, or you need to modify, or you need to, redirect. So that is why at the level of proposal, if you are not asked, it's not necessary to disclose AI. But definitely, because you are not going to publish a proposal, but for your finding, when you are publishing a finding, we believe your finding is a scientific proof, which you are going to put out there, and then you expect us to use it for further study. So that one is a scientifically binding document, and you should disclose everything that should be disclosed. Okay. In fact, I've come across some proposals that they say, oh, okay, it's even good. They allow you to use AI in preparing your proposals. I've seen some of them. But again, even if they say you can use AI, I will still advise you to use it responsibly. Don't forget that caption, responsible use. Because if you just say, AI, generate a proposal for me on so, and then it gives you the document and you are happy and you just go and submit it. Don't forget I tell you that AI has some of their drawbacks, because you've used AI to write the proposal. AI is not the one that will evaluate your proposal. It's an human being, most likely, anyway. And I told you the other time that AI has a history of giving unexisting or wrong citations. So what if your evaluation now come across that you said according to XYZ et al. 2022, and so is my hypothesis. And that is the nucleus of your whole proposal. That's what you are basing your hypothesis upon. And then out of curiosity, maybe the person is even an authority in that field. And then you say, oh, okay, this person is saying this thing according to, and then say, in all my years of being in this field, I've not come across this reference. Let me see what it may just be out of sincere curiosity. And let me see what this person is saying. And then it goes to your reference list, copy the reference, and then he troubleshoot for it. And then he couldn't find the paper anywhere online. It has put a question mark on your credibility, on the integrity of the whole proposal. Or he was able to get the reference, and the reference is saying entirely different thing. Maybe it's not even related to science at all. Maybe it's even a politics. And they say, And I'm telling you, the person may not necessarily go through the rest of your paper again. He will just form his opinion at that junction and say, oh, this person is not serious. He just went on AI and then he just gave me something. And then he will form his conclusion right there, and that's all. And you are not there, like I said, you are not there to defend yourself. So even if proposals allow you to use AI, use it responsibly. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. We have come to the end of the question and answer session. And at this point, I would like to ask Dr. Adeniyi to give us some closing remarks.
Yes, ma'am.
Or any other contribution for us. Please, Dr. Adeniyi, over to you. Or we could have Dr. Ishola give us the closing remarks and any contribution from his end.
Okay, thank you very much, our moderator for today. And thank you a lot, Dr. Ogusui for that wonderful, how will I say? I'll say it's a workshop because it was very detailed and in-depth. And I just hope that for all the mentees, we've learned a lot. And just like what Dr. Ogusi mentioned, and I think some people are using that privilege already in the group. You may not be able to have access to some of the materials or resources that is needed for your research. And that's why this environment, this platform offers to help as well. So if you are looking for a particular software that is needed for your research, looking for an article and things like that, and you are not based on your environment or your location, you couldn't have access to that, you can ask from the group and someone somewhere can offer to help and help out. So I just hope we, the mentees, will continue to make use of the opportunity that is being provided through this platform. One other thing I just need to mention is the lecture series supposed to have like 2 weeks ago. So we'll be having that next week. So it's like a kind of back to back kind of a thing. So let me, well, I think D will be the one giving us a lecture next week.
I pick it up and put it in the.
I'll be talking on research methodologies. So let's put it in our calendar. We still have another webinar series next week, Saturday, same time. So, and that will be delivered by Dr. B. Yeah, just let me mention that. So, in the event of not to waste much of our time, I think we can close the session for today. Thank you all for your time and see you guys next week. Bye.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Ishola, and thank you very much, Dr. Ogunsi, for sharing your wealth of knowledge with us. We also encourage everyone here that joined that they should apply what they have learned today as we continue in our research journey and academic growth. Thank you very much, everyone, and have a wonderful evening. Thank you.